Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like the time, we have another show lineup for y'all today. Boy, do we have a powerhouse. I'm excited about this one. We have Patty Aubery. She is a visionary leader and a mastermind, the mastermind behind the billion-dollar brand Chicken Soup for the Soul Enterprises. You know that. You are sleeping underneath the rock. We don't know about that. As the president of the Canfield Training Group and being an author of 14 New York Times best-selling books. Patty knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing. She has tons of experience, and she's going to share a lot of insight on this with us today. So first and foremost, Patty, thank you for clearing your calendar to talk to our audience today. First and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love your show.
I appreciate you just taking some time. So once again, knowing that you have a lot of work experience with success coaching and business strategy, kind of give us a little behind the scenes. What got you started into this successful path?
Probably my ADD. I never planned on getting into coaching or being in the self-help field, to be honest. I just happened to be looking for a job when I was 24 years old, and I was looking in the paper because we didn't have the internet. And I had a goal to make $25,000 a year, and I saw $25,000 a year in big, bold, writing. And then below it said secretary wanted. And I was like, it's the one thing I never want to be. But I thought, well, I'll just check it out. And so I did. And it happened to be Jack Canfield. And I didn't get the job at first. He hired someone else and then came back and said, I feel like we're supposed to work together. I don't know what it is. So I started as a secretary. We were doing self-esteem workshops. We had a company called Self-Esteem Seminars, and then made my way up to VP of operations. And then in that time, we started to do this first book. We didn't know what it was going to be called. Turned out to be Chicken Soup for the Soul. And then I became the president of Chicken Soup for the Soul Enterprises. And that was it about 38 years ago. And the rest is just chaos and rainbows.
A lot of people, I will hope, and I'm pretty confident they know about that brand. When you understand what it's like to be behind the scenes, right? Because people see those big names and big brands and big public figures. They're thinking, wow, they must have won a lottery ticket. But for our audience, what was it truly like being able to have that kind of experience behind the scenes, especially understanding the maybe massive responsibility you had to carry as well?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, in the beginning, it was just he came to the office one day and said, I feel like we should be putting all these stories I tell from stage and all of our friends like Les Brown and Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and Mark Johansson, all these different people, collect their best stories and put them in a book, because all these people are asking me, hey, that story that you told on stage, you have it in a book. And so he finally said, duh, why didn't I hear this sooner? Like, he's been hearing it over and over, right? We hear things 1,000 times. We're like, hey, this is feedback. Maybe we're supposed to do something. And so we went on this journey. We started collecting stories, and he started editing, and I would type every edit, and we would go through. And we worked on that book from, I would say, 1989 to 92, got published in 93. But we practiced everything we believe in. We sent the book good energy. I didn't type a story if I was in a bad mood. We interviewed every single best-selling author. What did you do? What did you not do? What did you do that was wrong? What advice do you have? And so we did everything you could possibly think of to get as prepared as we could to write a best-selling book. But our goal really was just to have a best-selling book. Because if we had a best-selling book in the speaking business, we could then get higher speaking fees. At the time, we were probably getting, a couple $1,000s for a keynote. And so that was the big idea. And so we did it, and it came out, and we had this huge marketing plan. But before it even came out, we finally finished it, and then we gave it to an agent. And the agent took it to every single publisher on the planet, literally every publisher. And we got no's across the board. America wants blood and guts. They're not into this nicey nice stuff. It'll never fly. So he gave us the book back, and he wrote us a letter saying, I'm really sorry, but I can't sell it. And that was after about a year, I want to say. So that was probably mid 92. And so we went to Book Expo of America. Jack and Mark had backpacks on. They handed out manuscripts. And the crazy thing is, Everybody said no again. But Jack had called a guy. He said, I know this guy. And this happens for a lot of people. So this is a good story for anybody listening. We knew someone that was going to be at Book Expo, which is huge. It's at the Javits Center, or it's in Chicago. It's the biggest book show of the year. And he said, I did a gig for them a couple of years ago. They do a lot of recovery stuff. Let me see if we can just store our stuff in that booth. And so the guy said, sure, no problem. So we stored it all there. We talked to him, kind of, just hung out a little bit, and then went all over the show. And at the end, Jack was actually walking out. I'd already left. And the guy that had the booth, his name is Peter Vegso, he said, hey, by the way, if you want, I'll publish your book. And he was a printer. So he did printing, distribution. He did everything from the beginning to the end. He got the book. They did editorial. They did artwork. They did layout. They did printing, distribution, the whole 9 yards. And Jack said, well, we really want someone that wants the book. He said, well, why don't you give me one of your copies and let me just read it on the way home. He lived in Florida and this was in LA. And he got to the airport, started reading it, and called and said, I want this book. But you have to guarantee that it'll sell 20 million or 20,000 copies. And so we had to guarantee if it didn't sell it, we're like, deal. But the thing is, and I say this and I didn't even know this story until years later when we filmed a documentary about our lives in publishing. And I said, it's interesting. Like we never look at what's right in front of us. What resources do we have right in front of us that we already know, like, and trust? And so it's like the grass is greener thing. It just, it's always that thing. You want what you can't have, or you don't, or you think you do. But it turned out that he was the guy that we knew, and that's where we sat down, and he ended up taking on that book. And that was the beginning of an 18-year relationship in publishing. And it was amazing. And it was perfect because he could do all the printing. If we had gone to a New York publisher, they would have had to outsource the printing. So everything, even though it didn't look great in the beginning, which happens to a lot of us, right? And we focus on like, oh, this is horrible. It really was the best thing on the planet. So I always say to my clients, assume everything is perfect. What is the positive about this? Where is the silver lining? Focus on that, because that vibration creates movement. Movement creates money. The other vibration is low and does not, So that was how we did it.
And that's why you're on this show. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now just listening, because a lot of people on the outside, I was too, before the show became what it was. When I first got started, so many pain points, so many headaches, so many dark nights, so many lonely nights where I'm tearing up like, oh my God, can I keep doing this? And I don't know if I can keep going. But to your point, there's always a silver lining. There is always an opportunity to see what is that present underneath all this crap. Excuse my word of choice of words, but that's what it is. We have to get through the crap first before we can get to the nice presents and the nice joyful moments. And it is those painful seasons that help you appreciate those wins. Because imagine if you just won all the time, there's no struggle, you never sweating. It's like watching a boring movie or a boring sports game. There's no fun in that. No one wants to be in the thick of conflict and difficulty, but it's getting to that other side where the opportunities you have then are definitely not the opportunities that you will be able to have sustained in the beginning.
Exactly. No, it's true. It's true. And because we didn't know we were doing a series, the one crazy thing that we did was the publisher called us when we did submit the book, and he said, hey, you've got a blank page in the back. Do you want to do anything with it? And Jack geniusly said, yeah, let's ask them if they have a story. I mean, that was like the most genius thing. That was like a blip second in a huge life. And it made all the difference, because now we are getting boxes and boxes and boxes of letters and stories. And so, I mean, the UPS or the mailman would say, can you guys move downstairs? Because they had to carry so much stuff. But then we started to get so many stories. We started to see like what's coming in, who's our audience, what kind of feedback are we getting? Oh, look at this. We're getting teen stories. We don't think teens read in publishing. Teens never had a market, but looks like we do. And we had to fight our way through that. The publisher was like, you're crazy. We're like, well, we're only so crazy that we're getting thousands of letters from teens. So we published a teen series and that went crazy. We published pet series and that went nuts. People were sending in stories about their pets. So you get to learn. The more you can ask your customer or your audience or your ideal client what they want, what they're doing, what's their story, you learn so much about people that then you can start to really make very accurate decisions on where we're going next. And then, we had one woman call and say, I have an idea to do chicken soup for the women's soul. And Jack said, the great idea. Thank you. And she said, no, you're a man. And so it turned out to be Marcy Scheimoff. She went on to do several books with us. She's a New York Times bestselling author. She also wrote Happy for No Reason. But she opened up a whole new area, like, oh, we can bring in other authors that are experts, that have platforms that specialize in different demographics. So that was another way that we could scale our business. Like, how do we get distribution and sales? We can't do it all ourselves. And a lot of us think, oh, if I don't do it all myself, I'm slacking. But really, that's just a story that we're telling ourselves. And so when she came in, I was like, all right, what other authors do we know? And then I was like, well, if she's doing that, I want to do Chicken Soup for the Christian Soul. And then that did really well. And I went on to do a ton of other things. So that opened up a possibility for me. So it was like just being open and not being so attached to the way we think it has to look. Because and to be honest, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is a good idea. I mean, come on. Chicken soup books are bought by women already. And Jack said, hold on, this could be, maybe it would work. Like, we should really look at this. Thank God he said that. And thank God I didn't get to win that argument. I was too young. Today I'd be like, what? So, but yeah, it opened it way up and allowed me to work with, I think I probably worked with about, I don't know, maybe 1,800 co-authors and 30,000 contributors over the 300 books that we published when we had Chicken Soup for the Soul. But, it allowed the scalability. It allowed people to come in. And it also allowed us to have distribution in pet food stores or pet, like PetSmart or any pet places. At the same time, we could have a golf book in golf greens and sporting goods stores, and we could have a woman's book in traditional markets and in spas. So we had to look at how can we keep the distribution separate enough to really do well and keep things going so it doesn't look too confusing. So it was a little bit of a juggling act in the beginning, but once, talking with you earlier, it's like you now have a system, what you're doing. It's a machine. So now it's keeping that machine oiled and well oiled. And once you have a system, then you can start to look at, all right, this is working. Now I'm not putting out fires. What else do we want to do? Right. And so how else can I scale this brand that's turning out to be a household name, unbeknownst to all of us? And what kind of licensing deals can I do? I can do fridge magnets. I can do greeting cards. I can do dog food. I mean, Chicken Soup for the Dog Lover Soul was our biggest, license ever. It was several $1 million. So you don't know where it can go, but if you're open to what's possible and you surround yourself with really bright people, anything is possible.
Once again, listening to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Patty Aubery. She has a website. You go to pattyaubery.com. It's crazy I get to have this interview because when I was younger, believe it or not, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which book it was, but I did have a product from the brand, Chicken Soup for the Soul. And it's almost wild just thinking about it right now because like I can see right now, me in my room, and I'm like probably maybe middle school, and I'm holding this book, and I'm like, man, listen to Patty talk, and I'm literally one of those people who kind of grew up with the brand. So I love the fact that small beginnings are a lot of things that people overlook. They want the quickest and fastest way to experience the success, experience what it feels like to win. But it's those battles of losing where you have to actually catch yourself and say, okay, I haven't lost yet. I'm just in the losing season. Once I get out of that season, now when the winning season comes, it's because I've learned something from that losing season. But too many times we sell ourselves too short too soon because we try to say our losing season is we lost.
Yeah, but we didn't really lose anything. We gained a lot of wisdom, experience, and data to say like, okay, that didn't work. How can we do it differently? What do we need to tweak? But I think so many people, especially in today's world with Instagram and Facebook and X and YouTube and everything else. I mean, it's crazy. It's like this instant gratification, and people are saying like, oh, and people used to say to me, oh my God, you guys came out of nowhere. It was like overnight success. And I would want to clobber them because during those 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, because I didn't see a check for, I don't know, almost 2 years because the book wasn't selling. And then suddenly it just went crazy. It was several years of top ramen and, paying ourselves less and saying, hey, we can all take a pay cut, all two of us, or maybe there was three, or we have to get rid of one of us. And we can't really do that because there's way too much to do. So, there was a lot of things that we sacrificed, but we hung in there for that bigger picture. And we also had each other to motivate each other. So if I was down, Jack was up. If Jack was down, which was rare, I was up. If we were down, Mark was up. Mark Victor-Hansen is like bigger than life. I mean, he's such a personality. It's insane. So, it's also having the accountability. I mean, honestly, if we hadn't teamed up with Mark, which happened after we were about halfway through the first project, I don't think the book ever would have seen the light of day because Mark was like, all right, now we got to do this. We got to believe it to see it, fake it till you make it. I mean, he would send me off to do crazy things. Like I would go to swap meets with chicken soup books in the back of my car, like my little hatchback Dodge Colt. Nobody reads at swap meets, or at least they think you're crazy. So I don't even have like a booth or anything. Just have a little white Dodge Colt and me and trying to hawk these books and no one's listening. Finally, I just started reading next to somebody walking with them. They're like, what is this? Like I did some crazy stuff, and I don't know, I was so young. I just did it. I didn't know any better. I was like, what do I have to lose? Someone's going to tell me to leave. Who cares? Today, sometimes I'm much more cautious. I'm like, okay, I got to up my game. I got to go back to that 30-year-old version of me that would do anything, ask for anything. No just means next, everything that I teach. So I always say use your life as a game. And Chicken Soup was like a game. We were like these mad scientists and we had this giant lab and everybody that we came across was just one of our lab rats. And so it's like, well, I'm going to try this and see how that lab rat responds. And so it was just like observation. Sometimes it would be so crazy that I would wait for them to be like, are you nuts? But it was the act of doing it. I didn't even care if I got a yes or a no. It was the fact that I was in action and I was taking a step forward. That was what was important. That's what's important for everyone. If you are in motion, if you are taking action, it almost doesn't matter because it's almost a numbers game. If you do it enough, that motion it's gonna start to attract more things that are going to start getting in motion and things will start to happen. So I just always look at it like, here's a new science project. Let's see where this goes.
Me listen to this interview myself. There's a lot of gems in this video today, and I appreciate that because when you think about how much it truly takes to not just be successful, but I like saying the word sustain because I think that's the right word to use to be able to sustain the success you have. I mean, that is the truth teller of how long you can be successful because like you said, sometimes you got to go back to the old days of, man, I had to do what I had to do back in the day. Sometimes we get a little spoiled when we're winning in our winning season that we forget what got us there.
Yeah, that is for sure. Yeah. And again, it's, I think everything happens for a reason. I mean, if I did the math when I thought we lost out on an agent, that was 15% of 300 million units. So if I got $1.25 a unit, which is about what we got, think 15% of that. That's a lot of money that would have gone out to an agent. We didn't have to pay that money out. We used it for overhead. So, I mean, it's crazy how things work. But yeah. And there were a lot of systems and systems can be painful for people. And I know probably a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs, big thinkers, more creative. For me, I have ADD on steroids. Like everything is a squirrel. But Jack was so attention to detail, cross every T, dot every I. Used to drive me insane. And then at some point, about 7 years into our relationship, I'm like, let's just appreciate the differences. I'm obnoxious. I'll go out there and get the deal. You make sure it's really good, and so we just started to look at we needed both of those skill sets to do what we were doing. And we had to deliver really good books, and Jack had to be a great speaker and I had to be a really good marketer and a strategist. And so we stayed in our lane and we did what we had to do. But it was a crazy, amazing time. And throw in there getting pregnant with 2 kids and getting married and having a family and juggling how am I going to do this and that at the same time. And it was pretty nuts. But when you are really invested and you're really looking at where are you good at what you do, and if you can really notice that it's probably your passion, right? You love what you do. You're passionate about it. You may not have known that your passion was to interview people and share good news and data around the world. We don't know until we try a lot of different things. But when we find that sweet spot, then anything is possible. When we're not going for the dollar. And I know that we've talked and you've said, I wasn't thinking about the money I was going to make. I was thinking about a quality product. I wasn't either. I passed up a pretty lucrative position to take on this position for 25,000. I could have taken on 100,000, but something inside, and I don't know what it was my intuition said, do this. And I thought, this is so weird. I don't know why I'm going to say yes to this. I don't know this guy from Adam. He looks like Howdy Doody. He's teaching something called self-esteem that nobody talked about back in those days. But I felt like something was right. And it was a massive decision in my life. I mean, it changed everything for me, everything. I grew up in a crazy family, middle of the road income, and in the San Fernando Valley. So I'm officially a Valley girl, if anybody ever watched that movie. And I didn't have any idea that I always knew I wanted nice things, but I had no idea what was in store for me.
I mean, one of the biggest brands that is well known. Once again, talking to our guest today, Patty Aubery. She has a website. You can go to her website, pattyaubery.com. When you think about creatives, entrepreneurs today, you're right. I am blessed to be able to steward a show where I talk to some of the brightest minds all around the world. And I'm so grateful that I have the responsibility to ask these questions to all these great minds. And I'm grateful for people like yourself who consistently take time off their calendar to pay it forward for our audience and our viewers. When you think about the creatives and entrepreneurs of today, it's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of people burning with new ideas and new concepts. But if someone right now is trying to build something that's actually impactful, you have ton of experience building something that is impactful and purpose driven. What generic words of wisdom would you share with creatives today on how they can focus in on purpose driven and being a business of impact versus transactions only?
Well, I would say, and I'm a firm believer in your business has to make money. I mean, in the very beginning of Chicken Soup, I was like, I wanted to make money. Jack wanted to make a difference. I said, together we'll be better. Call me shallow at the time. I was so young. But I did take the job for a lot less than my other offers. I would say for a lot of people that are creative, they're doing something and they are tired of it, or they're burned out, or they think they want to get out of an industry. And I would say, okay, that's good. If you have some invention, great, go find investors, go that route, find people that have been where you've been, done what you've done, and get their advice. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? Do not believe everything you read. Make sure that you have evidence. If you have an idea, believe your idea. People tell you it's not a good idea, you can fight that one. I mean, I never say just take anybody's advice on that, because I have crazy ideas and they've worked and people have said they won't. But when you're building something new, I always say start with like 5 years out. What does it look like? What do you need to do? You need to back into your numbers. If I'm going to invest this much money, I need to produce this much in revenue. How am I going to produce that much in revenue? Have I brought in all of my expenses, whether I have to run ads, I have to go out there and speak on people's stages, I have to meet with people that are buyers at this, and this, like plan out every single move. It needs to be a massive roadmap on paper, or in a Google spreadsheet. But you got to have a spreadsheet. You've got to look at every single thing, ask other experts, what am I missing? Do I really need to go take this course? My answer is almost always no. You need to invest in you or people around you. Some courses are great out there, but I see a lot of people taking all kinds of courses on how to market my whatever. They don't even have their whatever done. I'm like,
Right.
get your stuff done. Like, we had a book that was a good book. We had 50 people read that first book and grade it on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate the story? 10 being gave me goosebumps, made me cry. We only used the 10s. We spent months editing and restructuring each of those books. So do your work first. And I think people want the cart before the horse. And it pains me because I see so many authors and so many creatives going out and spending upwards of 100, 200, sometimes 300 or 400 on these crazy courses. And, we're going to teach you how to create a certification course. Like, you've never taught anybody your content. You have no business creating a certification for other people to go teach it. And not to be mean, but like, become an expert at what you do. There's something about that 10,000 hours. Get it done. Make sure it's good. Do not skimp in those areas, because an okay product isn't scalable.
That's good.
So, and it's like, I know we all want to get there, but I got news for you. Like, getting there is great, but then you're there and you're like, okay, now what? It's the journey. It's all the stuff you go through. It's the good, the bad, the ugly, the crazy, the funny, the ridiculous. That's where the transformation happens. And if you can just step back and be like, well, that was a weird day, but you know what? Someday I'll be talking about this from stage and we'll all be laughing about it. And when you have people around you that will support you and not try to talk you out of your dream, but be there to look at, okay, how can I help? That is a huge thing, because lots of times entrepreneurs come up with ideas and their spouses freak out. Like, oh no, that's crazy. Like, we don't want to rock the boat here. We got a good thing going, right? And that's understandable. That's what makes them feel safe. So looking at how to navigate those waters, maybe working with somebody like me or a coach or something that has been there, done that, but has a proven track record, a really good one. So just the little things, because, and I also say, don't quit your day job, and like, don't quit your day job for your dream job until you build a bridge to that dream job. So all these steps have to be in place. Start leaning into it. Start making it your side hustle. Start to see that revenue coming in, because when you have revenue coming in and you're starting something new, your vibration's higher because you're not in lack. But the minute you say, I'm just going to jump ship, I don't even like this company, I'm going to go over here and write a book or become a coach, or I don't know, do something different. You're kind of abandoning all of your wisdom, all your expertise, all the places where people know, like, and trust you, where you have credibility and visibility and probably profitability, for the unknown, which is fine. But if you just jump off the cliff and you haven't learned to swim, you're going to be like, how am I going to make my rent? What am I going to do about my mortgage? My wife's freaking out, like, or my husband, whatever it is. So know that all of those things play a part in keeping your believe it's possible, sky's the limit mindset open and available. Or make sure you have a really big, like, nest egg that can support that, because we don't want to get into that lower vibration again. I mean, the minute we start to worry, the minute we start to think it's not going to work, the minute we start to worry about our cash flow, things change, and it's an energetic shift, and it's not a good one.
Go ahead.
So think about it, and just go out and ask people. I always say to people, if you just want to call me and ask me, should I do this? I'll tell you yes or no. It's free, So anyway, that's my rant of the day. I apologize.
No, you're good, because I was going to say, everything you're saying, I love it. I'm gonna listen to this for myself, and I want to point people also, when you are online, you listen to people like Gary Vee, like what you're saying about being happy, like that's something that he's been very passionate about here recently. I'll be watching his stuff all the time on Instagram, and that's one of his pet peeves with people, especially when he's taking questions from people. And that is whenever he starts feeling that they are just being negative about the whole situation and he's like, I'm too old. And he's like, nah, man, 30s, 40s, actually a baby, man. She is young. Like, stop being so negative. I think that's another thing, just piggyback on what you're talking about. Negativity is a choice. It's not like people just throw it on your lap and say, hey, you have zero choices for the rest of your life. You must carry this weight for the rest of your life and be just sour and ugly and nasty and negative for forever because that's the only choice on your plate.
Yep.
That's the biggest lie. We actually get to choose to be happy. We literally can say, all right, for the next 5 seconds, I'm going to choose to let it go.
Yeah.
And I feel the more you can practice letting go of whatever got you all tightly wound up or frustrated, whatever, the sooner you will start to learn from that particular experience. What has been your personal take when you found yourself frustrated with business or marketing or branding and you're like, man, what am I going to do? What's my next move? Am I going to let this go or am I going to just sit in this mess and hope that it just magically gets better?
Um, I mean, I've had so many things where I've gotten frustrated. I mean, it's, you have partners for that long, and I had a few. We don't always see eye to eye. There was a time where I was, when you're young, you have a big ego. And I would say that's probably the biggest liability of being young. You think you know everything. And I remember I went to my attorney, my entertainment attorney, he said, hey, listen, I think you need help. As the president of Chicken Soup, I really think you need help. And I said, what do you mean? I don't need help. I can handle this on my own. Like I've sold 50 million books. And he's like, well, listen, if you want to sell another 50 million, you need to find someone that knows more than you know. And I think I'm the right person. So for me, my surface story was like, I should be able to handle this on my own. But my hidden belief really, and this is a big thing, I think, and I've been really looking at this formula. It's like, so I had this story, I should be able to do it. My hidden belief is like getting help means I'm weak, I'm unorganized, or I'm not there yet. And the truth is, like, that is just a self-worth block masquerading as discipline, so it's not really the truth. So if I reframe it and I look at getting help isn't indulgent, it's evidence that I'm taking my business seriously and I want to go to the next level. And every top producer, you know, treats support as a growth strategy. So it's like, I would say being hard headed, not thinking I need something, but eventually, caving and thinking, okay. And ironically, when my attorney said that to me, he said, Jack and Mark can't help you. They're speakers. They don't know more about business than you do. You've done well and you need help. And so I went and interviewed this guy that he referred me to. And I didn't really even like my lawyer at the time. And so I went and met with this guy and I kind of liked him. And then I went to my parents' house and I was talking to my father and I was moaning and groaning. And he said, well, who is this guy? And so I told him, he said, I know him. I did a licensing deal with him for Kathy Smith vitamins. My dad was a big guy at Nature Made Vitamins. And he's like, if you get him, you're lucky. And to this day, we are still like thick as thieves. I mean, we talk all the time. We worked together for over 30 years together, did tons of deals, did tons of lucrative stuff. He was a great mentor for me, and he had way more education, way more experience. And it was awesome. So sometimes it really pays to put your ego in your back pocket and, you know, listen.
It's good stuff. Once again, you listen to I Am Refocused Radio and watching this online, talking to our guest today, Patty Aubery. Go to her website, pattyaubery.com. Can't believe how fast this whole interview went by. But before we let you go, for our audience and viewers, if those who want to learn more about you and your resources, what's the best way that they can keep in touch with you online?
If you go to my website and you go to pattyaubery.com, there's a place that you can actually fill out something and ask me any questions, and somebody on my team will get back to you. The one thing I will say is if you do like this interview and you do want to find me, you have to spell my last name right. So it sounds like Aubrey, but it's really Aubery. So it's AUB as in boy, ERY. I think I might own that domain, but I'm not sure. So I'd hate to miss you if you don't spell it right. So it's PATTYAUBERY.com.
But once again, I can't believe that this episode is already landing right now. But I want to say real quick to our audience, I want to thank you for tuning in. And I think it's been working. I've been trying this little homework assignment for the past 3 episodes. It seems to be ticking up pretty good. So like always, please, one thing I ask you to do if you enjoy this show, if you enjoy this episode, share it with one person, please, because that's a domino effect. Apparently is helping even the show's platform to grow. So I just want to say real quick to our viewers and listeners, thank you so much for doing the homework assignment. Maybe that need to make that a club thing or something. Share one time with a friend. Definitely hit up Patty and what she's doing and share this with someone that you love and appreciate, and hopefully you will come back even better than before. Like I always want to say to you, Patty, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. It was great to be here with you. And again, congratulations on your success.